bring you down, man. We will bring you down.
Rock's Chosen Warriors.
Facts on tracks. We're gonna break some vinyl down from the front to the back with facts on tracks.
Action. Welcome to Breaking Vinyl. I'm your host, Des, aka Johnny Fever. And as always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. First up, the podcaster coming through in high fidelity, Evil Ed. What's up, Ed?
What's up, Des? How you doing?
Good, good. And last but not least, the podcaster playing the deep cuts, B-Side Dave. What's up, Dave?
Hello, hello.
All right. Tonight, we will be discussing Motley Crue's Shout at the Devil. Shout at the Devil is the second studio album by American heavy metal band Motley Crue, released on September 23rd, 1983. It was the band's breakthrough album, establishing Motley Crue as one of the top-selling heavy metal acts of the 1980s. Shout at the Devil peaked at the number 17 spot on the Billboard 200. The band's original lineup was featuring Vince Neil on vocals, Mick Mars on guitar, Nikki Sixx writing songs for the band and attempting to play bass, and Tommy Lee on the drums. I got a couple of fun facts here. So while this album was being recorded, Nikki Sixx could barely play bass, if at all. And engineer Geoff Workman actually called the label when recording started of the bass lines and said, "This guy can't play bass." And it was a problem. So it leads me to believe that there's probably a few licks we're hearing on this album that are in fact somebody else. You know, maybe just a lick here or there. Like, you know, there's a couple of tracks on here I'm going to get to where I say, you know, this is Nicky's best track, but I feel like probably the producer was like, we've got to put a couple of, you know, fills, you know, runs, licks on this to make it pop a little bit.
That's so funny. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's very obvious.
It is.
When it happens.
Yeah, like in Shout at the Devil, you know, do. It's like, that's not Nikki Sixx. Come on. Guy couldn't play at this point. And I'll give him credit. I mean, obviously, you'll see him now. He plays guitar, and he's obviously at least tried to learn how to play his instruments, but he's still no Billy Sheehan. I mean, let's be honest. Fun fact number 2. So Tom Zutaut, who signed the band to Elektra Records, claims he saw a knife and fork rise off the table and stick into the ceiling. He writes, "I looked at Nikki and freaked out. There is no more Shout with the Devil," which was Nicky's original title for this album and song. "If you keep shouting with the devil, you're going to get killed." I truly believe that Nicky had unknowingly tapped into something evil, something more dangerous than he could control that was on the verge of seriously hurting him. Nicky must have realized the same thing because he decided on his own to change the album title to Shout at the Devil. This fact smells like bullshit, like a little propaganda to sell some albums, but it was fun. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's a good story. I'd heard that too. You know, that he was kind of into, you know, doing black magic when he was, you know, dating Lita Ford.
Yeah.
And they were, you know, sort of, you know, doing all this crazy stuff, you know, presumably, you know, booze and drugs were, you know, in the mix there too.
Yeah.
You know, doors opening and closing on their own. But, you know, he sort of backed off the whole deal there.
So we also have to remember this is the time period where PMRC and, you know, kids are going out in the woods and the devil made my son kill himself, not me as a parent.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, parents in complete denial of, you know, telling their kids and, you know, not accepting them because they want to be different or something.
Exactly. So. Yeah, perfect. Satanic Panic. I remember it perfectly. And it's funny because we did on the movie review podcast we did Trick or Treat. And the one with Sammy Kerr and Gene Simmons. And I remember when it came to the part where Sammy Kerr is going in front of the committee. And that's a note for note ripoff from when Dee Snider did it. And reviewing the Dee Snider footage for that podcast, you know, he was very polite, really, and well-spoken. And Sammy Kerr, if you guys are familiar with that movie, he did it like, "We will bring you down, man. We will bring you down." And I just love that. I thought it was so fucking cool.
Rock's chosen warrior, Sammy
Yes,
Kerr.
Rock's Chosen Warriors. That's a
Oh
great
yeah.
fucking flick. So do you guys have any facts on this album? Anything you could dig up, or should we just get into the opening thoughts?
Yeah, the only other thing I found, the liner notes boasted that this album was recorded on Foster's Lager, Budweiser, Bombay Gin, lots of Jack Daniels, Kahlua and Brandy, Quackers and Krell, and
Oh,
Wild Women with capital W's.
oh fuck.
Also adds caution: this record may contain backward messages.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
just
Oh,
like
yeah.
Songs in the Key of Death, which was Sammy Kerr's album.
Yeah, so
Skippy.
Oh.
that's a big list.
That is a big list. That's a big, sexy 1980s big hair metal list you have.
Oh
there.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Ed, what do you
I
got?
did some reading, and it apparently when they were touring for this album
Mhm.
and opening for Ozzy, I believe.
Yep.
There was a big discussion the band had about removing Mick Mars from the band. And Bob Daisley was the one who talked them out of it. And it's just another example of Bob Daisley being the man.
So, Ed, we're going to get into this, and I don't think Mick Mars should have been replaced because Mick Mars has a guitar sound that is,
Mick Mars is fantastic.
Yeah, he plays a 1972 Black Les Paul. Fun fact, my wife bought me a 1974 Black Les Paul custom for our anniversary a few years back. 100% original from a vintage guitar store in Long Beach, California. I mean, this guitar fucks. It is so amazing. But
Nice.
Mick Mars has a sound that is thick. It's Les Paul, it's Marshall. It's fucking great. He also plays a Gibson Flying V. It's a one of a kind that he had made. It's got a black pick guard on it, like single pickup. It's really cool. He played it on the Shout at the Devil tour. But they did, in my opinion, need a second guitar player. They needed a lead guitar player. Mick Mars, and I'm going to get into this as well, because Mick Mars is a very good blues guitar player. He came from another era than these guys. He was more of a 70s guy. He was a lot older.
Yep.
And he was competing with guys like Warren DeMartini and George Lynch, and he was in over his head trying to compete with these guys, and he just didn't have the chops in that style of guitar playing. He wasn't a shredder. There are a couple of tracks on this album where he goes back to his bag of tricks, more blues, more melodic. He gets away from the shredding, and you can hear the confidence on those tracks. But let's not jump the gun. So let's get into some opening thoughts on the first time that we heard this album. I will go first. So let me paint a picture for you, gentlemen. South Weymouth, 1984. It's a hot summer day when I received my first copy of Shout at the Devil. I'm a young rebel running wild through the gritty streets of Queen Anne's Gate. I became a man that summer, if you know what I mean. And this album would change everything about me as I would go on to buy my first guitar, grow my hair out, dye it black, and cover myself in tattoos. So yes, this album was the cornerstone of who I would ultimately become. And to this day, anywhere my wife and I go, I can't get there without someone saying, "Hey, you know who you look like? You look like Tommy Lee." And we laugh. So yeah, and Ed, I've known you for a long time. You could probably confirm to the listeners that at the age of 16, I did have "Eat Me" tattooed on my shoulder and several tattoos.
Yeah, I didn't know you back then, but yeah, I remember the day I met you. Yeah, you were a trip, man. For lack of a better term, and I think it's a great term, actually, I fell in love with you that day. I'm like, I need to spend more time with this dude. He gets it. He knows how to have a good time.
Yeah, it's funny. So I dropped out of high school in the 9th grade, but I went to Weymouth South High, and I mean I went like just a little here and there. Like they didn't even want me there. Like I said, I had "Eat Me" tattooed because I love Nikki Sixx. So I actually got "Eat Me" tattooed on my shoulder like a fucking idiot. I've had it covered up in my sleeve since then. But if I didn't wear a shirt that covered it, they would just send me home. They'd say, "Don't come with that exposed," and I would come in, and they wouldn't even try and cover it. They'd just say, "Go home." And I was just a punk, and I was the only kid in high school covered in tattoos. You know, my mom gave me a blank check when I was 16 and said, "Yeah, go to a tattoo party in Dorchester." And, you know, I got a giant traditional Black Panther tattooed on my arm. So yeah, I was a little bit of a knucklehead. Um, so Ed, what are your first memories of Shout at the Devil? And have you listened to this album front to back before preparing for this podcast?
To be honest, I'm not a huge Motley Crue fan.
Okay.
Um, however, there are two of my top Motley Crue songs on this album.
Okay.
Um, you know, this is the first time I listened to the album front to back, and their influences are definitely all over this with the tracks that I would call lesser tracks,
Yes.
in my opinion. You know, the whole punk, Ramones, New York Dolls type sound, not a ton of production, uh, you know, keeping it simple. But granted, we also have to remember these guys were completely out of their tits at this point.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so but overall, you know, dude, I dug it. It's not an entire album I would play front to back, but definitely enjoyed some tracks that I've never heard before on this.
And I like what you said about the punk thing. So this album actually felt pretty produced and slick to me. The first album, Too Fast for Love, that one
I can't
had
even
more.
listen to that.
See, I love that album. I that's probably. I mean, it's 1A, 1B with this one, but Too Fast for Love for me just is magical. I really love that album a lot.
Yeah,
Some
that's punk
really
rock.
It is. It's punk rock, Dave, 100%. There's some really strong choruses. There are a lot of filler songs on it, but I think the best song off of Too Fast for Love is better than the best song off of Shout at the Devil, but I think as a body of work, Shout at the Devil's better. Dave, give us your thoughts on this record.
All right. Well, I've listened to this many, many times. It's an old favorite. Was a little guy when it came out. I think my first taste of the music on here was the videos on MTV.
Yeah.
Looks That Kill, Too Young to Fall in Love. Those portrayed these guys, larger than life, almost superheroes. Got a little older, got into metal, checked out the full album. Later on, I played guitar in a Motley Crue tribute band called Red
Yes.
Hot.
Oh, cool.
98 to 2003, somewhere around there. I really had to pay attention to the music at that point. Basically, it was my job to listen to this CD, and we played almost every one of these songs on stage. All
So,
around.
Dave, that was with Tommy on vocals.
Yeah, Tommy
Okay, so
Guns.
we played with you guys a few times, yeah?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, I thought so. I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, Tommy was such a great guy. Rest in peace, Tommy.
Oh yeah. Nico was playing bass, and
Correct.
we had a couple different guys playing drums. Actually, for a while, we had Benny Graves from the Murder Dolls
Yeah,
who
yeah,
played drums with us.
yeah, and he also played with us. So
Yeah.
there's a little crossover for you. Cool.
Nice.
Ben was an amazing drummer, and even more so, an amazing human being. So I just want to say, rest in peace. Um, yeah, so I'm really glad you brought this one to the table. Like I said, this album really changed everything about me at this point. I mean, this album was very influential on me. Uh so Ed, you'll remember in high school, I actually dated a girl that looked a little like Vince Neil, and we were together. We looked like a Motley Crue cover band. Um,
That
all
is
right,
true.
all right. So let's get into the track breakdown for this one. And I want to say, so you were talking about the videos. Mick Mars plays that BC Rich Warlock.
Yep.
He did not like those guitars. He didn't like the pointy guitars. I mean, like I said, Mick Mars, a 70s guitar player, cast into the 80s metal scene. It wasn't really his thing. He loved the Les Pauls and the Gibson Flying Bees and the classic guitars.
You
but
can't even compare the two.
yeah,
I
and
mean, God.
he was forced to play those guitars in the videos because they were trendy and fashionable at the time, but it wasn't for him. And I really wish Mick Mars had stuck to his guns like he did on the Too Fast for Love album, because Mick Mars Live Wire, that's the best Mick Mars you're ever going to get. Period.
Yeah.
He's got the leather pants, the Mars down the side, the black Les Paul, the blood, and we're going to make comparisons to this album and Kiss Alive 2, obviously. It looks the same on the back. You got the 4 pictures. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons between the 2 records, which is fine. It's not a rip-off. It's just a tribute, in my opinion.
It was also trendy.
It was. All right. So for the second album in a row, we are going to get an intro track again. But unlike last week, this intro track is going to be a lean and mean minute and 13 seconds, which I appreciate. Unlike Up the Beach, with its, its meaty 3-minute intro. And and this one also sets the mood for the album, much like that one did, but without beating you over the head and just being long-winded like I am. So I
nothing wrong with
it.
that, Des. Nothing wrong with it.
I enjoyed it. Go ahead, Dave. What do you think?
Yeah, it's perfect intro to the record. Builds anticipation, holds your attention.
Yep.
The guy speaking on the track there is credited as Alistair Fiend.
Correct.
But he was actually their recording engineer.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I thought he did a great job. He did a great job with it.
Yeah, I always assumed it was a clip of Aleister Crowley or something like that from back in the day, but apparently not.
I always thought it was like Vincent Price.
Right?
Something like that. Yeah. So Ed, what did you think of this intro?
I liked it a lot. I thought it was a very cool intro. I liked kind of had an apocalyptic yet evangelical feel to it.
Definitely.
It kind of sets up the tone for the record too.
It definitely does. And if we're comparing songwriters to like screenwriters or novelists, last week we got a nonfiction from Perry Farrell. This guy is writing about his real life. And, that's like a nonfiction novel or nonfiction story. And this week we get a lot of what I perceive to be a fiction from Nikki Sixx. He's writing from his imagination, and he has an amazing imagination. I don't think a lot of this is about life experience, which is fine. And, he really like spins these really fun, interesting stories on this album, which we'll get into. So I thought that was kind of cool, because I was telling you guys last week how I really like a songwriter that writes, from experience. But then listening to this, I'm like, you know what, though? Spinning a tale is fun, too. It works. So let's get into the meat of this album. Shout at the Devil. Dave, what do you think of this opening track?
Yeah, it is amazing, powerful, mean. The pounding drums and gang vocals. They get into the song, and it really has kind of a bounce to it. Not in a dorky way, but in a great way.
Yeah, totally. Ed, what'd you think of Shout at the Devil?
Really love it. Great first song for the album, I think. Sets a big tone, big attitude. It's got a good hook. It's simple, but it's really good. Honestly, the only negative that I have is Vince Neil's falsetto is just, he just sounds like he's just not there.
Screechy.
Yes. Almost like he's just a little bit flat. But I like it. The song is simple in a way that it's attainable as, like, I remember, I think Dave and I are the same age. I think I was 11 when this came out.
Okay.
But I remember, when I started playing around 14 and songs like this I'd listen to and I'd go, oh my God, I could play this. This is a great song. And it inspired me to keep going and to realize that, hey, I could do this.
Absolutely.
And that's really big. And that was really big for, I think, that whole time frame. Because I feel like it was the end of the time frame of inspiring young kids to play instruments and be a band and work as a group.
Yeah, I mean, this riff is like smoke on the water. It comes with the guitar,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
they're like, if you buy
Yeah.
this BC Rich Warlock, you can play
Yep.
Shout at the Devil right out of the case. Oh, great.
Yep.
Um, so you hit on something there that I want to talk about. So unlike last week, where I felt like Perry Farrell hit every note on that album and probably had even more to give. Like he wasn't even at 100%. I feel like everybody on this album is pushing 100% and it's still not good enough,
Yeah.
except for Tommy Lee.
I
Now, I
agree.
was going to say, so right off the bat, this album starts off. Tommy Lee is going to put this track and the entire album on his shoulders and carry it across the finish line. Tommy Lee's drumming on this album is fucking spectacular. I mean, we're getting accents. We're getting fucking amazing, like different timing beats on the snare. Like he'll pull off on Wild Side, later on in albums.
Right. Yeah.
He's fucking just, it's so fucking good. They're produced so well. It's making the album interesting. You put another drummer on this, and I hate to keep beating up Mick Brown or something like that, because he's fine. But these are like crashing straightforward drummers that are playing very standard rock metal beats. This album would be fucking unlistenable. Okay. Like if you put
Oh
a
yeah.
shitty drummer on this to go along with Vince Neil, with his overly punched in vocal parts on these songs. And, Mick Mars struggling to play a guitar solo and Nikki Sixx's bass is just not there. So these songs are written amazing and they're great songs, but that's only going to take you so far. And Tommy Lee makes these songs interesting to listen to and he lifts the musical performance up with that playing. Would you guys agree?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Tommy totally carries the band on this album.
He's too good for Motley Crue. I mean, that's just a fact. And
It's how it's
but
always been, though. Look at all the tours. It's always showcased Tommy.
yes, but with that being said, the band compliments him well, and he compliments the band well.
Yep. Yep.
Vince gives a aggressive vocal performance on this song and the whole album. It
Yeah.
works.
Well, the band didn't really do him any favors with the key that they kept writing these songs in.
There's no key that he can sing, and he's not a good singer. We do get the old second verse, same as the first, a little bit louder, a little bit worse. It's lazy songwriting. I didn't like it on this song. I wished that Nikki Sixx had written a second verse. I never like a repeating verse in a song, even a great one like this, and it is a great one. Um, unlike last week, the bass line he's trying to deliver these bass lines, but they're beyond basic. They fit the tracks and they're fine, but unfortunately this is going to be a recurring theme on this album.
Yeah, there was nothing more frustrating as a bass player when you would read like Kerrang or some other music magazine, and it's like voted best bass player this year, Nikki
Yeah.
Sixx, and everyone would be reading, going, "Who the fuck is doing this voting?" Because
It's
no,
It's not interesting. It's not interesting. And the problem is if you put a great bass player playing with Tommy Lee, you would have got like what we
oh,
got
night
last
and
week,
day,
where you get this great drummer and this great bass player hooking up and creating this fucking bottom end
amazing grooves.
amazing grooves. And here you've got these drums and they're just not seasoned with anything. And it's a problem. It's a fucking problem. And as far as Mick Mars goes, and unfortunately, this is also going to be a recurring theme. As strong as his rhythm playing is, and Mick Mars writes great riffs and great songs because
Yeah,
I know
yep,
Nikki Sixx isn't writing the music to these songs. He may be coming up with, the basic
the
notes
basics.
behind,
Yeah,
but Mick Mars is writing these great riffs, and he always does, right down to Wild Side and
yep,
Girls, 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 and this guy just writes fucking great guitar riffs.
Yeah, that's what he
Um,
brings to the table. Really.
Absolutely.
yeah,
And that sound. He's got a really good guitar sound,
Oh yeah.
but his solos are overly simple and surprisingly sloppy for how simple they are. And he gets lost in a jumble of notes over and over on this album. So,
yeah. You can tell when the producer really put his foot down, because I agree. The solos on the songs that are better produced on this, basically the hits, are night and day compared to the rest of the album, in my opinion.
um, yeah. And again, the problem is, and what they should have done right off the bat was they should have said, Mick, play to your strengths. You don't have to be a shredder. This isn't going to be a shredding album. This isn't Rat out of the cellar. You know, let's do it. Let's do it more like, just play melodic. Give us what you got. Give us your best riffs and let's make them work. Play confident. I would have way rather heard that than what I got here. Um, so looks to kill. Let's break this one down. Ed, take it away.
Looks Zach Hill. This is one of the best songs on the album, in my opinion.
Yes.
It's really just so good. The music really moves in this. I think it moves well. It's got a good flow to it. Lyrics and melody, production, recording are above the rest on this and one other song. It's almost like, did someone like just say, okay, we're gonna compress the shit out of every track except for two of them, because this is really bright and active, and I really, opposite to what you just said, I really enjoyed Mick Mars' guitar solo in the song. I think it really fits the song because I felt like he didn't look to shred so much as he looked for a solo that fit the song, and I thought that that was really well done in the song.
Yeah, totally. And Dave, what did you think?
I thought it was a great, sort of 1-2 punch to open the record between Shout and Looks to Kill. Looks to Kill has an unassaultable groove. I mean, it is just crazy. They even have a little bit of, keyboard layered under that, sort of James Bond part in there. That's one of my favorite tracks on the album, for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with both you guys. This is the slickest track on the album for sure. The video, I remember the first time I saw this, Nikki stands up and gives that look to the camera and, I'm sold. I'm like, okay, yes, please, and I agree with you. This is definitely one of Mick's better solos on the record. He doesn't overdo, there's a little bit of messy shredding on this.
But that's kind of the band.
Yeah, but it works.
Band isn't neat. They're messy. So it just, I don't know. I think it just works. It's not as glaringly obvious as some of the other songs where you're just like, whoa, you're behind the beat all the time.
Yeah, this works. The soul is fine. Like I said, it fits fine. It works. He actually starts it off with that, that really melodic, really good. When he's playing like that, he's perfect. I mean, he's a really great guitar player. But when he goes into that fucking those crazy, it's like, don't do that. Stop doing that. Yeah, the drums on this tune are incredible. They're hard hitting. They're dynamic. They're full of fun little accents you'll hear here and there, like Tommy Lee does.
Yep.
It's filling up a ton of dead space because the rest of the band isn't delivering. So if you don't have these little things where he's like, clicking on a cowbell or grabbing that hi-hat and then letting it go and then hitting it again, this is going to sound very flat, but it doesn't because he's filling it up. And I think he really kind of set the bar for metal drummers of this era, because you see him playing, he's spinning his sticks, he's wrapping the stick around his head, he's pointing, he's, like
throwing him up in the air.
Throwing them up in the air, like in Smoke in the Boys Room, hitting the snare and letting it bounce up and catching it. This is stuff guys weren't doing at the time. And after this video, everybody's doing it.
Oh, yeah.
He turned drumming into showmanship.
He did. He really did.
And then guitar player.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, after these videos came out, every local kid and every local band is sticks, and he made it cool. So fucking A. Tommy Lee is the unsung hero on this album. Next up we have Bastard. Why don't you take this one away, Dave?
All right. Apparently this was written about, some record company guy that had done them wrong. And, it's pretty straight ahead message there. Some great double bass drum playing from Tommy Lee. The writing style of it actually reminds me of stuff off of Girls, Girls, Girls later, maybe like kind of a Dancing on Glass or something like that. It's like you get a little of that style in advance. That
Yeah.
doesn't, it's a little different from the other stuff on this record, but still cool.
Uh, Dave, I'm glad you brought up. Well, you that was girls. So, Theater of Pain. That is going to be Mick Mars's best record. They really went bluesy on Theater of Pain. City Boy Blues. He definitely explores his bluesier side, and it shows off what Mick Mars could have done if he had just stuck to his roots. That's an album I'd like to do one day. I know it gets a bad rap and people say they hate it. It was all filler tracks and it was written while guys were in rehab and whatnot, but I think it's a good Motley Crue record. Um, Ed, what do you think of Bastard?
This is the first time I heard the song
Okay.
when I listened to it, and I like the cool tempo change at the verses.
Mhm.
It brought some, I guess, maturity that I wasn't expecting from them, but it also kept them rooted in the punk sound because there's a total punk vibe in the song.
Totally.
The song grew on me, and I wound up enjoying it, but I'm just not a fan of that style or the overall tone of the song. It just felt like this is kind of the first example where I was like, "Oh my god, did they forget to turn off the compression on this? Because it just sounds like it's being muffled."
Right. Right. Um, yeah, so this track for me, it's fine. I really liked Vince Neil's vocals on this. But like now living with Vince Neil of now and how lazy he is, it's really refreshing going back and listening to this album and hearing how cool he was back then. I mean, you gotta add the visual with this band because the way
Oh
they
yeah.
looked added a lot to everything. Like if these guys were a bunch of dorky looking dudes trying to put this album out, it wouldn't have worked. You look at Vince Neil on Shout at the Devil, and it's like, all right, he's not the greatest singer, but he's fucking cool as fuck. And this song, he sounds very young, he sounds very hungry, and I really liked it. Mick Solo's fine, it's melodic. He just doesn't sound very confident. He sounds like he's playing the absolute limit of his abilities on this, which isn't a good, it's not a compliment. Um, so again, this album starts off with Tommy Lee and they're going to put a flange on a snare drum, which I loved. It just comes in with that flange, and it's just really cool. And the drums are popping off this track, and it's making it anything but just another filler standard track because it instantly just grabs your ears, and it's something different that I hadn't really heard at the time. You know what I mean? All right. God bless the children of the beast. I will start this one off. Um, It's fine. It works as a tool to set up the next track, but honestly, I wouldn't miss it if it wasn't there. I mean, this is it's okay. It's okay. It's not I mean, Mick Mars's guitar playing isn't like, Randy Rhoads here. It's not the greatest acoustic performance I've ever heard, but it's fine. Uh Ed, what'd you think?
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the whole Randy Rhoads thing. I think it's like everyone was trying to do like that little guitar snippet that
Yep.
Randy did.
Yep.
Was it on Blizzard of Oz, the D?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, you know, and it's like, no, just don't. It's pretty, but it's completely pointless.
Yeah. It's more like D flat. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, it fits the vibe of the album, and sort of has that like moody, feel. The acoustic and then the electric, harmony guitars coming in. Uh, Funny story, when I was doing the tribute band, I actually attempted to do this during the show one of the times that we played,
Uh-huh.
and I had the track and I was just sort of playing over it. Unfortunately, the sound check didn't quite go right, and in the middle of the show, the monitor volume, I couldn't really hear the track, and
Oh,
I sort of got the echo time wrong, because I was trying to put in some echo to fill up the guitar, and it sort of turned into a disaster. But I did attempt it one time.
Nice.
I think we all have stories like that playing live where you're like, I don't know what the heck happened.
Oh yeah, sort of
Yeah.
went off the rails.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we've all been off the rails. All right. So this one goes directly into Helter Skelter. Um, I remember the first time I heard this. I mean, obviously, this is originally the Beatles, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So this one, Mick really struggled with the lead on this one. It was a mess. Um, and being that it's a Beatles song and it's a song from his era, like a song that he probably grew up with, I really wish that he had just fucking really dialed this one back and just gone with a very aggressive blues guitar solo and not been pushed into trying to shred on this one, because I feel like this was a missed opportunity for Mick Mars to really shine and to add another layer to this album and this song. Um, yeah, I mean, but it's a good aggressive version of the song. It totally works with the concept of the album. It was a perfect cover song for this album. I just feel like they slightly missed the mark on the execution of it. Dave, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I know why they did the song, sort of for that shock value, the Manson connection, and so they want to have that kind of spooky
Yeah,
deal. You got to wonder. I mean, I love this album, but you got to wonder how much of this is, eh, real, and how much of this is like, oh, marketing. We want to be, spooky and scary and eh, everything like that. Um, it is way cooler than the Beatles version. I will tell
yeah,
you that.
yes,
Uh, but yeah, I mean, Mick could have went a different way with the guitar playing. He did seem to have that pressure to compete and sort of just be wild,
yeah.
rather than go with something that would fit. But it still works.
I wish that they had let Mick Mars play slide guitar on this album. It would have worked. He could have done it with some really cool effects and been doing something that nobody else at the time was doing, because no one was playing slide guitar. Eventually, it would become very trendy to put slide guitar in everything
Yeah.
because people wanted to show their range of what they could do with guitar. But I think that Mick Mars is a very good slide guitar player, and I think they could have done something here that maybe would have broken a little ground instead of him trying to compete. Ed, what'd you think?
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys on this one. It's a total filler in my opinion. It works for the album, like Dave said, like you both said. But yeah, it's I've heard so many covers of Helter Skelter, and the one good thing I'll say about it is this is probably the best cover that I've heard of Helter Skelter.
Yeah.
Because it's just it. I didn't really love the song as a Beatles tune, and I did actually like it a little more when Motley covered it. But yeah, there was just no need for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And as far as like what Dave was saying about, the witchy part of this album, how much is real, there's very few bands that are bringing it real,
Oh yeah,
one that comes to mind is Gigi Allen.
Mm.
They're real. That's real. Okay. So, you're going to get, there's very few artists that are living it the way they are marketing it. And,
right.
that was one guy that really did.
Yeah.
So the next album up is Red Hot. Oh boy, this one is a fucking blazer. Dave, go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's killer drum opening.
Oh yeah.
This makes me want to run outside and lift up a car. It's
Yeah.
it's just one of my favorite songs on the album. And we were talking about Tommy Lee before, and he really doesn't get enough credit. Uh, for his drumming and the uniqueness of what he does. The flash moves and everything like that.
Yeah. He fucking sets the bar here with this double bass. I mean, this is a track that, you know how you play air guitar? This comes on, I'm air drumming. I
Oh
got the
yeah.
double kick going. I'm trying to hit the snare with I'm all over this. I fucking love this. This is probably, aside from maybe Wild Side, this is my favorite drum track from Tommy Lee. Something about that off time snare on Wild Side is just, it's
Oh, it's
genius.
phenomenal.
It's
Phenomenal.
fucking phenomenal. But this guy is creating like, almost like the solos on the album. Like here's your guitar solo, you know, it's fucking amazing. Smoking chorus on this. Mick Mars. Okay, so finally, I can finally say something nice about Mick Mars's leads. So Mick Mars delivers a nice solo on this one. He's got some harmonies. He's going to double the guitar track and harmonize with himself, which is fucking great. It sounds great during this nice melodic, slower guitar solo. It's very reminiscent of Detroit Rock City's guitar solo. That, you know what I mean? You know the part I'm talking about,
Yeah, the
where
melodic.
where Paul Stanley and Ace, they start playing together.
Yeah.
So it's got a little bit of that. He's got some 70s riffs sprinkled in there, a couple of those Hendrix, where he's just kind of like pulling the one finger off the string. Um, this is his second strongest solo on the album, and it's a route that he should have taken for the whole album because it was fine. He never shredded once on it, but he sounded like a confident guitar player, and the track fit the song, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, great
So,
solo.
yeah. Um, Ed, did you get your shot on this one?
I did not.
Okay, go Ed.
So yes, I agree. The opening drums and bass, great. I mean, the bass is simple, but in the beginning, and it grows from there. But overall, great energy, great attitude for the opening, and then the guitar riff comes in, and I can't stand it.
Yeah.
But it's just the chorus part.
Okay.
So if you remove like I just don't think the chorus part worked in the beginning.
Okay.
I think the chorus part works in the chorus. I just think it didn't blend well with that because then when the verse comes in, love everything about it. I'm like, okay, now it works. It just out of the blue from that bass drum intro, and then the whole just guitar part just didn't work for me in the beginning.
Okay.
It definitely cool song overall. I really liked it. First time I heard the song, and that's definitely one that I'll add to my rotation to listen to again.
I think I hear what you're saying with that. It's a very aggressive song, and I think that was done intentionally. I think they wanted it to be jarring. I think they wanted the sections of the music to kind of punch you in the face, and it was effective. I could see it both ways, but on this track, I think I'm going to take it the way it was produced. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's sort of odd timing on the guitar riff, when
Yes.
it
Yeah,
comes
and
in
it just
that
doesn't
part.
work in that one little snippet in the beginning.
Yeah.
It works everywhere else in the song, though.
Yeah. I think that's just
Like I probably wouldn't have even done it. I would have probably just gone into the verse, like do the whole intro with just the bass and drums, then go into the verse in the song. It would have been fine for me. Then it would have been an issue. But
yeah,
my opinion.
Yeah, I think it worked.
Good
both
tune though.
ways.
I liked it a lot.
If Red Hot was a bowl of soup, you like yours with a little less pepper.
That's all.
All right. Next song up is Too Young to Fall in Love. Ed, what did you think of this one?
It's what can you say about this song? I love this song. It is just this and Looks at Kill, I think they below this album. The two songs are above anything on this album. It's just they're that good. Fantastic song. Probably the best bass line on the album, which means Nikki probably didn't play it. Because it's got a lot of movement in sections, which is nice.
It
Could have
does.
been Mick Mars.
It
honestly, it kind of has that vibe. But yeah, it's just this. I remember seeing this video for the first time, and that's when I saw this before I saw Looks at Kill video, and I was like, oh yeah, I get this. And then the problem is, I think the next song that I was so all over the place at that time period. I think the next song I heard from them was off Theater of Pain, Smoking in the Boys' Room, and I just wanted to bash my head in.
Yeah.
Because I hated that cover.
Dave, what did you think of Too Young to Fall in Love?
Yeah, holy shit. Talk about groove.
Yeah.
This is just all over it. And we were talking about Tommy Lee before, and how another drummer, a normal drummer, more straight ahead drummer would have ruined this. He just sort of has this almost, I've always thought it was almost like kind of a dancey, disco vibe to a lot of his drumming that really contributes to their music. But yeah, it really goes well here. It's a very poppy song. And the video is super cool with the sort of old timey kung fu movie.
It's so cheesy. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, it was great. But yeah, I love this song.
Yeah, this is by far, hands down, not even close, my favorite Motley Crue video of all times. I fucking love this video. They're like superheroes in this video.
Yeah.
You're gonna get everybody's fucking true personality. Tommy Lee whipping the fucking sushi back at the guy, the fucking cheesy fucking kung fu fight. Oh God, I fucking loved it. So this is perfect. So this is Nikki Sixx again. He's writing a little screenplay here. When he writes this song out, he's seeing this video in his head. I believe he's sitting there writing the lyrics of the song, and he can envision this video because it's written like a little screenplay. This is one of the slickest sounding tracks on the album for sure. Again, it's really well produced. We're gonna get again this really solid chorus, man, that just you hear it once and you just can't get it out of your head. And this is a theme we get again and again from Nikki Sixx on all his albums. He writes great choruses. Mick Mars delivers a very cool guitar solo on this one. It's as close as he's going to get to giving us a shredding guitar solo that doesn't sound like a jumbled mess. It's a little bit shaky, but it's fine. It's fine. I always remember seeing this one as a kid and watching him play the solo and being like, all right. I'm like, all right. He took a lesson, maybe Warren DeMartini came over and showed him a couple of licks. It's okay. Yeah. So fucking great song. Great song. I agree with both you guys. I love this one. So next up, Knock 'em Dead Kid. Dave, take this one away.
All right. Well, I like it. I feel like the song is a little weak. Some of the lyrics and stuff. I do like they're not afraid to use unexpected sounds. You got a little keyboard accenting the intro. They have some, hand claps when they come in. Over in Looks That Kill, they have like the little clock tower sound. So that was one thing that's cool about the production of this album is that they use some of that stuff that a lot of other bands wouldn't necessarily throw into the mix.
Right.
But yeah, it's the guitar solo was the best part of the song. It's sort of I mean, to me, the main part of the song is sort of just sits there, and then at least the guitar solo moves.
Dave, will you step into my office? You are fucking fired.
Oh no.
I'm going to have to write you up on this one. You've been written up. You have one more write up and then you're suspended for 1 week. Okay. So Vince Neil shines on this track. This is one of the ones where he's actually, for me, the one that is carrying the track. I mean, obviously Tommy Lee carries the whole album, but this is where Vince shines. He's really kicking ass on this tune. He's delivering Nikki Sixx's lyrics like with confidence. He doesn't sound like he's pushing. I really, really like Vince's performance on this. So Mick is like I've said, he's a melodic player, but on this song, he is fucking way out of his element. And this guitar solo goes on and on and on, and it just fucking highlights how out of his element he is. And by the end, he has literally run out of riffs to play. And by the end of this, he is literally just moving his pick across the strings as fast as he can and just playing this jumble of confused notes that kind of reminds me of Cultural Personality, that solo, when that guitar player is just like, and it's just like, what the fuck are you playing? This isn't even a legible guitar solo anymore. So I couldn't disagree with you more on this one. I fucking hated this guitar solo. Holy shit. Okay, Ed?
Yeah, I didn't like the song at all. It sounds like they were all on different pages when they were writing this song or putting it together. There's too much, like especially during the solo, and not even Mick. It's the background. I couldn't even focus on Mick. 'Cause I'm like, who decided to put all this crap behind the solo? It's like, okay, it's going. Okay, now we're gonna chop. Now we're just gonna play a completely different riff. in a different key. And it's like, what the hell?
Yeah, because they're trying
just-
they're trying to get you to look away.
I couldn't figure out what they were trying to do with this song.
They were trying to hide the fact that Mick Mars was playing every single note in the world in like the wrong order. Holy shit.
But yeah, I will agree with you, Des, with this is the first song that I went, oh, I don't hate Vince Neil right now.
Now, I will say this as somebody that, like I said, I'm a songwriter. I've got a YouTube channel, someday maybe I'll link you guys to it, whatever. But I maybe could have taken this fucking overly long solo and like cut and pasted it down to about a quarter of the size and maybe given you a good guitar solo. I don't know. Maybe not. So here we go. 10 Seconds to Love. This is a fucking great track, Dave. Take it away.
Yeah, these guys might want to see a doctor. They have ointments for that can help go a little longer.
Wear 2 condoms.
Double bag it.
Double bag
Yeah,
it.
I mean this is sleaze metal at its finest. The song is cool. They have this awesome bass and drums breakdown in the middle, very very sexy, and it's super cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you used the word sexy because I actually have that in my notes too, and I didn't want to sound too fruity, especially after posting a video of me in my fruit boots. So, yeah, this one, again, Nicky wrote great lyrics and Vince delivered them, confidently and very sexy vocal. Nikki Sixx is finally giving me something here. It's by far his best bass performance, but is it? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's somebody's best bass performance. It's a very, it's got some meat to it. It's interesting. It's actually doing something than just following the root notes of the song. Oh man,
4 notes. It's not that hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I think on most of the album, that's about how many notes he's given us. But this song, the bass line is very good. And when you're getting these little snippets on this album where somebody is playing bass along with Tommy Lee, it makes all the difference in the world on this album. It goes from being this like rudimentary, basic rhythm track to this interesting rhythm track. And it's sad. And on this one again, man, oh my God, Mick Mars' solo, just it's lost in this confusing jumble of notes. It's a disaster. It's a fucking disaster. Ed, what did you think?
I think the Ramones wrote this song.
Oh God.
That's what I hear when I hear this. Is I hear the Ramones.
10 Seconds to Love?
Yes,
really?
I do. I swear to God, this is a Ramones tune
with Stevie Wonder on vocals. Okay.
It's just got that simple. It's not my thing. The song actually annoys me.
Get the fuck out of here! All right,
yeah, you're fired too.
Ed, step into my office. Okay,
I do. I think it's boring and lazy.
You've just been written up. One more, and you're suspended for a week. Don't you guys love how I'm the judge and the jury?
Oh yeah. Just like when we golf.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this just didn't do it for me. I get it. I mean, it's a fun song, definitely, but yeah, it's not something that I would ever go, oh, you know what? This song would make this moment in my life perfect.
Yeah, no, this song has to be on the album. It's one of the 3 big dogs on this album, and without it, the album suffers. Dave, would you agree?
But I you know what? I think this. But sorry to interrupt. It's definitely their roots, their influences. It's get that New York Dolls, Ramones vibe, totally. And that's not my thing. As much as I enjoy punk, in stuff like that, it's just it didn't do it for me.
Interesting. Yeah, Motley Crue, I don't know how I would label them, what genre. I don't know if I would call them punk or metal, right? They're kind of like just their own thing. I mean, they were so early in the game.
Yeah.
Like when I listen to Motley Crue, I just kind of hear Motley Crue. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They have a unique sound.
And for them to have done as well as they did going up against bands like Rat, Out of the Cellar, like that album flattens this album musically. Not
Yeah.
and I mean the songs are fucking phenomenal off Out of the Cellar too. I mean, it's a fucking great album. But you
Yeah.
listen to that, you listen to some of these licks Warren DeMartini's playing, some of these Juan Crocier bass. I mean, these are musicians. What we're
Yeah.
getting here, these are not musicians,
Well,
except for Tommy Lee.
yeah, and remember, these guys were also going up against Van Halen, who
Okay.
probably wrote the first 4 albums, are probably the greatest first 4 albums ever written.
Yeah, no one's going up against Van Halen. Van Halen wins
No, yeah.
knockout.
Yep.
Okay, so the final track on this album is Danger. Um, Dave, take it. Take this last track.
Yep. This is a really cool song. It's sort of underrated or forgotten. You don't really think of it along with these other songs, but it's really cool. Sort of reminds me of the writing of Too Fast for Love, a little more of
Yes,
that style. There's probably left over from back then, but it's very cool.
Dave, you nailed it. This is definitely Too Fast for Love. And again, that Too Fast for Love album, man, it's underrated. They're so young, they're so hungry. Yeah, it's green. It's got some tracks that feel like demo tracks on it, but fuck if that's not my favorite Motley Crue. I fucking really love that. And this album absolutely feels like a leftover track. And quite honestly, it should have been on Too Fast for Love. And they could have taken off one of those other songs like Merry Go Round and Round, and that album would have been stronger. Um, Ed, what did you think of this song?
Overall, I liked it. Drums are great in the beginning. The verse and pre-chorus are good. I thought they flowed really well until the chorus. I just feel the chorus lacks a hook, like just danger. I'm like,
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
Great observation.
but I thought this was a mature song for them.
Yeah. But again, very uncharacteristic of Nikki Sixx. He missed the mark on the chorus here. It's
Yeah.
forgettable. It's forgettable. And
Yeah.
on this album in particular, this feels like a filler track to me. But it's a filler track that I love. Unlike standing in the shower thinking, which I didn't love. I know Ed did, but I didn't like that. This one I did like. Again, it feels like Nikki Sixx is, he's spinning a story out of his imagination. It would have been cooler if it was real. I mean, maybe one of his friends died. I don't know. I don't think so, though. And so I'm going to go out on a strong note with Mick Mars. And I know a lot of my takes on Mick Mars are going to be unpopular on this, but hey, I got to deliver it the way I hear it, or the show wouldn't be cool. So Mick Mars goes out fucking swinging on this one. This is his best guitar solo on the album. And it's so simple. There's absolutely zero shredding on it. Every single note he sounds confident on. He plays this thing with the confidence that a guitar player should be playing on a fucking studio album. It's really, really good. And again, this is probably the best bass line on the album. And there's no fucking way it's Nikki Sixx playing. I don't give a fuck. I know Nikki Sixx is an egomaniac, so I'm sure he played on every single one of these tracks, but I'm sure there was probably a ghost player that went in and added some fills and some runs and just, threw some spice over his remedial bass playing. Yeah, so I think that's it. I think that we have broken down Shout at the Devil, and I thought you guys fucking brought it today, man. I want to commend you guys. Nice job today. So this is the time in the show where we are going to do a band tryout. We're going to replace one member of the band with another musician, and I'm going to kick it off. So this week, I am not going to actually replace anybody. So I'm going to break the rule here, but it's okay because I can do that. So I am going to add a member this week, and I think this one is fucking red hot take, okay? I'm going to add Tracy Guns to this album, playing the leads over Mick Mars's brilliant rhythm guitars. And I think you've got a completely different album. What do you guys think?
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's a good one. That I think that would work very well.
Yeah, and I'm talking about the era of Tracy Guns right off that first LA Guns album with the fucking, the black leather pants with the stars down it and the tassels and the fucking black spiky hair with the yellow streak. And can you imagine him ripping those solos over this album?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, man, this album is fucking great. And then maybe even throw in like Kelly Nichols. And even though Nikki Sixx looks 10,000 times cooler, but maybe Kelly just comes in and does the fucking studio bass work. I don't know. Okay.
So LA Guns plays this album instead of Motley Crue.
No, no, because Phil Lewis doesn't work on this record. No.
He'd be a
And
better
Tommy
singer.
Lee, yeah, and debatable. And Tommy Lee, fucking like that wasn't even Steve Riley that played on that first LA Guns album. It was another guy.
Yeah, another guy.
Yeah, and Tommy Lee fucking
Right.
crushes Steve
Oh, yeah.
Riley on drums. So
Definitely.
yeah, no, I'm fine with Motley Crue, but I would love to hear it with Tracy Guns. I think that would be, or really any shredding guitar player, I think, but Tracy Guns really fits the flavor of this album. Dave, who are you going to replace and why?
All right. I wouldn't really want to replace any of them just because the top of their game, the maximum coolness that Motley Crue has, they're there on this album.
Yep.
So it wouldn't really be the same, with anything changing. But you could, just for fun, replace Vince with a girl. She had a hit song that year, 1983, called "Stand Back." You could throw in Stevie Nicks.
Oh,
She's got the
Jesus.
witchy vibe. She could pull this off.
Holy shit, you fucking guys are killing me with these picks, man. I do like that you guys are embracing the idea of this and not going like totally obvious like I just did with Tracy Guns. But fucking Christ, last week was Stevie Wonder and this week was Stevie Nicks. Can we just keep the Stevies out of it next week?
Think about the like what would have come of that. I think that's a great
Yeah, I
pick,
think she
Dave.
would have been impregnated on the first fucking length of the tour.
Walking in the
God.
room. Or we can sub out Nikki Sixx with somebody who can actually play bass. Ooh.
Yeah.
But
The
but
problem
Nikki,
is then the songs wouldn't be there.
yeah, and not only that, but you know what? Nikki Sixx looks so fucking cool. It's one of those few instances he looks so good he doesn't have to play, so
Sure.
he's fine. He's like that guy you meet at the bar. You're like, you see him and you're like, God, fuck, this guy looks cool. You go up, you're like, do you play an instrument? He's like, no. You're like, do you sing? No.
Nope.
Do you want to sing? Yeah, I'll try it. All right, you're in the band. All right, and Ed, who do you got?
I think you're going to be very happy.
Okay.
So I would also remove Vince Neil.
Yep.
I think Justin Hawkins from The Darkness
Oh fuck
would
yeah.
be a fantastic singer for them.
Sure.
Okay, that is fucking money right there. And if you
Right?
guys haven't checked it out, Justin Hawkins actually has a YouTube channel
Great
Yeah.
channel.
called Justin Hawkins Rides Again, where
Just
he
started
breaks
watching.
down songs, and yeah, he's really entertaining. He's a fucking super cool dude. But yeah, Ed, that is fucking great, man. He would have fucking crushed this album.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's do some final thoughts and some Watt scores. My God, after going through this album, my final Watt score, I'm not sure. I might have to back that knob down just a little bit. All right, so final thoughts. So Motley Crue's Shout at the Devil has definitely carved its spot out in pulp culture. I mean, everybody knows this album, and there's a reason for it. It's a great album. It's chock full of great choruses, a drum line that literally stands on its own. I mean, I could probably turn off everything else and just listen to the drum track all the way through and be entertained.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Visually, the band was fucking stunning. Very reminiscent of Kiss Alive 2, this album, which is an album that I listened to for hours on end. And much like this album, I don't know about you two, but like Kiss Alive 2, I would listen to the album when I was little and just stare at that centerfold and imagine I was at the show and turn it over and just look at the four of them with Gene Simmons with the blood on his
Yeah,
face.
yeah.
And I did that with this album too. I would fucking look at that back cover and them standing on the spikes and just imagine how amazing that was. But I can't look past Nicky's inability to play bass and to deliver anything interesting on this album, and Mick's failed attempts at pulling off a clean ripping guitar solo. I wish he had played to his strengths, but he did not, and I can't look past it. Um, this album for me is pushing 80 watts, and I'm giving it 80 watts as a body of work, from the visual to the songwriting to the effect it had on pop culture. If I was just going off just the album, just what I heard, it wouldn't be that high, but I have to give this album the respect it deserves as its spot in pop culture. So 80 watts is where I'm at on this. Um, Dave, what are your final thoughts and your watt score on Shout at the Devil?
All right. I mean, these guys were so out of control at the time they were making this record, booze and drugs and just going crazy. I'm kind of amazed they made any album, much less, glam metal classic. Uh,
Yeah,
Doc McGee mentioned, later on about them, their music being high RPM, low IQ. That's the way I like it. So that's, this is right up my
That
alley.
nails it.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So my score is 90.
Oh,
Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
nice.
I subtracted some points because of, maybe not fair, because the sort of undignified way they've been going on recently. When they could have retired as legends, and they're
Yeah,
sort of just falling off the cliff and just
it's
sort
a
of
fucking
ruining it.
disaster now. It's a disaster.
Yeah. So
My
I
God.
got to take some points away from that, and you know.
Okay. Ed, please give us your final thoughts and your watt score.
So overall, I enjoyed the album. Like I said, this is the first time I've listened to the entire album and not just the 4 songs that I knew. Um, in of which I would say the fact that it's got 3.5 songs that are just good, really good, and carry the album is more than a lot from that time. Usually it was one. You'd be lucky if there was a second song that was really good on an album. So overall, I gave that Watt score of 70.
Nice.
So it's I really enjoyed it. Again, not something I'd put on over a lot of other albums, but definitely something that I could find myself in the mood to listen to.
Ed,
So
I think that your score is probably the closest to what this album actually deserved. I think that Dave and myself were a little bit blinded by our just love for this album, and just how close it sits in our hearts. I think if
and
you
there's
really
nothing wrong with
listen,
that. That's the whole point of this.
yeah, but I
What's
mean
it mean to you?
on just a performance level though, I think you're pretty close. Um okay, so Ed, will you please calculate the three scores? That's going to be an 80 from me, a 90 from Dave, and a 70 from yourself, and tell us how many watts this album is
So
putting out.
this album is putting out a whopping 80 watts.
Right, I think that's right where this album should be. I like that score. Dave, you like that score?
Yeah.
All right, and Dave, at 80 watts, where does this put Shout at the Devil on the Breaking Vinyl music chart?
It puts it at number one.
Number one, bumping Jane's Addiction off after a long 1 week run on the top spot.
Yeah, Jane's Addiction moves down to number two. Motley Crue is number one.
I think that Nothing Shocking slaps this album in the face every day of the week, but that's why there's three of us here. Um, Okay. And Ed, so I got to be honest with you. I have been looking forward to this moment because you are just the wild card on the show. I just have no fucking idea what is going on in your head at any time. So, will you please tell Dave and myself and the listeners what album we will be discussing next week?
I've been dwelling on this all week, going back and forth. I mean, there are so many albums I want to discuss. And this year, like this year's 40th anniversary of Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden,
Oh boy.
things like that. I'm like, oh my God, we got to do this, we got to do that. But I wanted to throw a curveball. Get something a little different, and we're gonna go with "Purple Rain" by Prince.
Oh, you beat me
Ooh.
to it. That was one I had coming up myself. So you pulled the purple rug out from under me. Yeah, I had Purple Rain. I had Michael Jackson's Thriller as one of
Yep.
my curveballs,
Yeah.
both of those. But my next pick is actually a very good one. Awesome. Fucking that's dude,
Yep.
great. We're also going to be able to talk about the movie, which was oh my god.
Love it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to
Everything
give
about
away. Yeah, I want to give away my thoughts on Purple Rain. I may
yeah,
hate it, I may love it. We'll see.
yeah.
All right, awesome. So I would like to thank the listeners for stopping by as always. And of course, my two co-hosts for helping me break down this album. You guys were fucking great. Ed, will you please tell the listeners where they can find Breaking Vinyl?
You can find Breaking Vinyl on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter at what's it? Twitter is a little different. What's that, Dave? It was
Believe it's at B Vinyl Pod.
B Vinyl. Yeah, and
At
it's
the Vinyl Pod.
I
Okay.
believe so.
yeah, and then on it, Breaking Vinyl is Breaking Vinyl Podcast on both Facebook and Instagram.
Cool. Yeah, join the group.
Hashtag the whole thing. Do all that crazy
Yes.
stuff.
And if you're listening to the show, wherever you're listening to it, please give us a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow, and share it with your friends. If you love music, you're a musician, you just love listening to records, share it. It's a fucking great show. It helps it grow. We do this for free. We do it because we love to do it, and you could really help us out by just supporting us in that way. And if there's an album you guys want to hear, leave a message. There's plenty of places to contact the show. I'm not saying we'll do it, but maybe we will if it's a good pick. So until next time, take those records out of the sleeve and let the music breathe. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Right?